yeşilayakademi.org. Uzman eğitmenlerimizle bilimsel bilgiler ışığında günceli takip ederek eğitim kataloğumuzu sürekli geliştiriyoruz ve güçlü kadromuzla yüksek standartlarda eğitimler sunmayı hedefliyoruz. Bağımlılıklarla mücadelede saygın ve güvenilir bir marka olarak toplumun sağlığıyla geleceği için çalışmaya ve hizmet vermeye devam edeceğiz. yeşilayakademi.org.
Herkese merhabalar. Webinarımızı Türkçe dinlemek için aşağıdaki Translation butonuna basarsanız Türkçe dinleyebilirsiniz. Şimdi ben direkt İngilizceye geçeceğim. Oradan lütfen Türkçeyi seçerek devam ediniz. Good evening everyone. I hope you are doing great and you had a smooth day. I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar titled Behind the Screen: Digital Behaviors and Risks, organized by Yeşilay Academy. I'd like to first provide some insight about myself, and I'll move on to Morina. So I'm a researcher at Edward University, and I'm doing research in behavioral addictions, specifically focusing on technological addictions and their impact on body dissatisfaction and cognitive skills. As someone who has closely witnessed, visualized scientific and social contributions in the field of addiction prevention, it's truly an honor to moderate this event. I'm really astonished by the work Yeşilay is doing in the addiction field. Imagine, I have been living outside for 20 years and in four different continents, and I've never seen such a big treatment facilities that Turkey has. So that's why I'm really honored to have this organization having all the facilities happening in Turkey. Tonight, we are joined by a distinguished scholar who has made significant contributions to the field of addiction research, Dr. Sabrina Molinaro. Dr. Molinaro is the head of the Department of Epidemiology and Health Services of the Institute of Clinical Physiology of the National Research Council of Italy, and her formal training includes psychology and clinical psychology, as well as epidemiology. Since 2001, she has been designing, activating, and coordinating epidemiological studies, research on general and specific populations, focusing on hidden populations. Since 2006, she has been designing clinical studies to evaluate the efficiency of therapeutic patterns and treatment outcomes. We sincerely thank her for accepting our invitation and taking the time to with us despite her busy schedule. This evening, we will be exploring the psychological and social impacts of behavioral addictions such as gambling, gaming, and social media use in general technological addictions. We will also discuss the growing risks in these areas and healthy coping strategies to address them. Throughout the event, you can also submit your questions in the chat button you will see throughout the process. And after the presentation, we will direct your questions to Dr. Molinaro for her insights and answers. Now, I'm pleased to hand over the floor to our distinguished guest, Dr. Sabrina Molinaro. Welcome, Dr. Molinaro.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the introduction. It was very kindly from your side to invite me and to share the results of our main studies. I'm going to talk to you about some concrete information that we collect in the young population all over across Europe and out of Europe. So what we're talking about is just what is the truth right now. And we study the changement in the development in the young population. Just give me 1 second in order to share my slide with you. And I started from this inspiring title, Behind the Screen, because I think that was completely right, the idea to discuss not only about the problematic gambling or problematic gaming or all the disease related to the internet use, but starting behind the screen, because right now all the young population starting their online and on life lives. And that means that probably we need to understand clearly what is going to change in the Gen Z adolescents. So I will start from, sorry, I did something wrong. Okay. I will start from the idea if internet is connected, seems serve for a connection or for the isolation. I will just give you a quick picture about the data sources that I will use during my presentation, and then I will describe you the patterns of digital use and associated risk, and then we will discuss about when the connection turn into isolation, and of course some take-home messages. Starting from the very beginning, the questions we need to ask ourselves is about do digital media connect or isolated today's youth? Because we don't need to demonize the use of social media and digital media, but we need to go through all the developmental tasks in adolescence. We know that during the adolescence we have some challenges. For example, during the adolescence we need to achieving the emotional independence from parents, accepting the body changement, developing a male or female social rule, establishing a new and more mature relationship with peers of both sexes and also with adults, I would like to add, and developing values and ideals, and also becoming socially responsible. But we know that the risk behavior have their own function during this challenge. For example, the risk behavior serve for affirming one's autonomy or experimental with the potential and possibilities of newly acquired skills, or testing oneself in different contexts and situations, or communicating needs, feelings, or mental states, or sharing experience, finding a balance between the need for the individuality and the desire to belong. So we know that during this time frame, adolescents need to pass through some risk behaviors. That's something that after the science, the beginning of the time, and right now is going to change what is happening in a younger generation, just because science, more or less 20 years ago, we had this new revolution that was the IT revolution that grew up with the Gen Z generation. Let me give you just a snapshot about the data that I'm going to use for my presentation, just because I would like to explain you that I'm not just dreaming, but what I try to explain you is exactly what we observe looking at the young people. So we start this Italian project that is the siblings of the European one, called the ESPAD, exactly in the same way we call it the European one. And we started to collect the data among adolescents from 15 to 19 years old in 1995, so more than 30 years ago. I have to update the slide, sorry. And inside the Italian surveys, we recruit a lot of students, more or less 15,000 every year. Last year, we collect data among 20,000 Italian students just because it was the year of the European data collection. And this is the response rate that we have in our country since 2005. And as you can see, we have a very high response rate from students and from school too. And we repeat the study every year. And the sample, as I said, is 15 and 19. And we send out a questionnaire, self-administrated, anonymous, and voluntary. And actually, the questionnaire contains items regarding both psychoactive substances and behavioral addiction with many self-report screening questionnaire. I will also use the data from the ESPAD European study. We just delivered the new ESPAD report last week. You can find the new results from Europe at this address, espad.org, and then you can also download the data that I'm going to show you in the ESPAD data portal, where you can explore from yourself all the information that we collected in the study. Differently from the Italian study, in the European study, we collect the data only on 16 years old and every 4 years. That's because we put together all the data from more than 35 countries across the Europe, so it's a little big task to put together all the data, and we don't need to do that more frequently than every 4 years. And we only have 16 years old just because that was the way to have an homogeneous data collection all over the country. As you can see, we started with the ESPAD studies in 1995, and we repeat every 4 years, apart of the last that we postponed 1 year because of the COVID. But we have a very big database where we can analyze a lot of interesting changement in the juvenile population. I will also show you another study, the results from this interesting study that is another sibling of ESPAD called MedSpad, that is lit differently from ESPAD because it started in a different way, and it started in some a country around the Mediterranean area. And that was an exercise from the Pompidou group, and the idea was to try to put together all the viable information since 2016. But MedSpad became a real project in the last wave, and we developed this on this MedSpad questionnaire, and we have the surveys done in Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Lebanon, and we are still waiting for some other countries join us. Actually, the MedSpad methodology is a very strong methodology. The only difference, big difference from the ESPAD study is that the data are collected when the results are available. That's different because not all the countries have every 4 years the resources to be able to collect the data, but we support them in order to collect the data in a very standardized way. Actually, we are waiting for Libya, Jordan, and Palestine that are on the way to join the ESPAD data, the MedSpad data collection. And in the MedSpad study, as you can see, Turkish is missed right now, but in the past, you participate in some meeting, you never collect the data with the new MedSpad question, but it would be very interesting to have you on board. But as you can see, we compare data from the north and the south of the Mediterranean area in order to try to understand what changes are going on in these two parts of the world. See, if we put together SPAD and MedSPAD, we have a very big power coverage, because we can put together a lot of information across 16 years old all over across the Mediterranean area and the European area. So I'm going to show you some results from our study. Now, close the part from the sources of data. I will move to the core of my speech, and in the core of my speech, I'm going to talk you about the patterns of digital use and their associated risk. I want to start from something very simple from the Italian study. When you will see the green sign, it means that I'm talking about Italian data. You can also imagine that, because I was not able to translate all the slides, so I will explain you, but it's very simple. We ask them time spent online during a school day. As you can see, the biggest part of students say from 2 to 4 hours, but there are also a big part, more or less 20% of female and 15% of male students, that spend more than 6 hours during a school day online. What they used to do in this time, they are connected with the social network, WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, TikTok, etc. Or they
Sorry, Sabrina. Is that a per day or is it like weekly? So are you
it's a
talking
per
about
day.
per
That's
day,
it.
6 hours?
So it's during an average school day.
Okay, all right.
So it's per day during a school day. That means that they have more or less 5 hours at school, and then they spend more than 6 hours online.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. And as I say, what they used to do is to stay in the social media and also watching series or video streaming, etc. How it changed during the time? As you can see, the habits increase a little bit after the pandemia. That's the time that we have the pandemia, but then went back to a little bit, not at the rate before the pandemia, but we observe in 2021 a big peak, and then it going down in 2022 for when we talk about time spent in social network. But what is increased a lot is the watching series, etc. Then they also play rule games or go on the sex website, etc. Now, what in my speech, what I want to tell you is that not necessarily internet is something wrong, because in some experience, and the pandemic demonstrated us, it could be also something that bring people together. And the main rule of many online games was in the past to enrich the friendship and also improve some language skills. There are many studies that observe that the gamification of many educational tasks can be helpful for, especially for the neurodivergent students. But although the online friendship do not replace the face-to-face one, it seems that in some situations it's very important the social support that you can reach through the friendship online. And it's very important also for the visibility of young people in the web. But there is also a dark side of internet, that is that one that we found that it was during the last year a big increase of hate speech and discrimination against minorities, and on the social media. That easier in the social media than in the real life, because you can be behind the screen, and so it's easier to be to hate, to be a hater. And and also the intensive use of digital media can be associated also with a reduced communication in the family and a smaller social network and increase in a long time the sense of loneliness. Also, the frequent use of internet and smartphone may be linked also to a lower emotional intelligence because you become much more close in yourself. So when we talk about problematic use of internet, what we are talking about, we developed this screening test in Italy that we validated called SPIUT and a short problematic internet use test. And what we found with using this screening test in our country was that slowly but continuously the problematic use of internet increase and increase, especially in the women population. As you can see, the female, the yellow bar, are much higher in the rate of problematic internet use than male.
Sabrina, may I ask you a question here?
Of course.
So how can we differentiate problematic use and the habits? So as you know that like most of us don't know really how to differentiate these two terms. Sometimes like problematic behavior might be perceived as habits, right? So if
Yeah.
somebody has some problematic behavior,
Now,
but if they're not aware of
the
it,
use of internet become problematic when there is no control from the person who use it. When you can't stay without, when you become anxious because you can't reach the web, the line, you are not online or you are not part of the online community and you become anxious, you become sick and you feel yourself bad. In that case, there is a discontrol of the internet use, and it means that probably you may have a problematic use. In the meantime, also when you want to reduce your time spent in internet, you can't do that because you just need to be online all the time, and that means that you don't have the control all the time. In this kind of behavioral addiction, when you lose completely the control of the phenomenon, it means that probably you may have a problem with this. So that's the more simple way to explain it.
how about the frequency? Is there an association between frequency and the problem associated with
Of
habit?
course, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we noticed that there is a big correlation with people who spend more than 4 hours for each day in a school day. It seems strictly related with the problematic internet use. That means also that you are not able to spend time doing your normal activity, means sport or spend time parties with your friends or doing the normal things that an adolescent needs to do during the rest of the day, a part of the school. And it is a big the correlation with the time spent. How big is the time spent on internet? How high is the risk to have a problematic internet use? But that's not only for the young people, also for the adult. So let me move ahead with some other behavior that are strictly related with the internet and can be part of the problematic use of internet. For example, I don't know if you know what is the fabbing. Fabbing is a word comes from phone snubbing, and it means refers to the behavior that you ignore the people around to you or snub someone physically present because you need to stay online and talking in your chat. Now that's something that if you look around you, many people used to do that, and it come to be problematic also the fabbing when it's more than half of the time that you spend with other people, you are strictly related with your social network looking at your phone. Fabbing is associated with depression and with the effect mediated by the quality of peer relationship, and something that is strictly related with the development of fabbing is to have parents who used to do fabbing. And in Italy, we have 80% of our students who says, yes, but less than half of the time that I'm with my friends, I spend time fabbing. And 14% say more or less half of the time, and 3% says more than half of the time I spend my time watching my phone and talking with people behind the screen. That's something really, really huge. I think it's something that we need to take in consideration because it's something that happened in this new generation. Another behavior related to the internet use is the ghosting. Ghosting is the term refers the sudden interruption of all contact with person is different from ignore a person, because ignore a person means that I decide that I want to ignore you, I have to face you and to say you something, and then I close the relationship with you. In a ghosting, I just close you the possibility to be connected with me, and that's a violence for a young people, because it's traumatic for a student to be ghosted from someone very famous in the group or from someone who you love, and it's associated with anxiety, with stress, with a big damage in the self-esteem, and with a lack of trust in others.
I
And
have a question here.
yes,
So, for
please.
example, while using our WhatsApp and messaging with somebody else, so if they left the message on like seen, okay, is it a ghosting or not? What do you think about that?
Oh, that's in the middle. It's not exactly ghosting, because in ghosting you are very ghosted. I mean, you are close. You can reach the person because they blocked you everywhere. But of course, also when someone don't look at your messages, is a sort of ghosting. Is a little like with respect to the violent ghosting, but is on the road to be ghosting.
Yeah.
And if we look at the spread of ghosting, it's very high. And as you can see, that's a victim, that's authors, and that's the people who use ghosting as a relation methodology. I mean, as you can see, the women seems be much more fragile for this kind of behavior. That's strictly related with the problematic internet use. And as you can see also, there is a big part, more or less 20% of girls who use ghosting as a sort of relation habits. But
Techniques.
yeah,
Interesting.
that's interesting, because it's something, if you talk with them, when I try to ask the student, but if you have ghosted someone online and you met him in the school, are you going to say him ciao? And people say yes, of course, because that's correct. I will say ciao to him. So that means that it's a sort of violence. I want to show to all the people that I'm ghosting you. You are not in the condition to be connected with me officially, but if I met you in the park or in the school, I will be not your friend, but I will say ciao to you. I will not ghost you in the same way. That's crazy for our generation, but that's a normal way to be connected in the young population. And of course, it's for us it's difficult to understand, but it's something that we need to study because it can be a form of violence or a new way of connecting, as I say, and it can be part of all these dysfunctional relationship patterns that are typical in adolescence. So it's nothing new from some way, but it's something that, to be clear, is changed a lot with this time frame. With the ghosting, everything can be very, very fast. I can be ghosted and then I can come back online and connected with people, and I reach the new situation. That's something really interesting. Another behavior that is very, very problematic. It's the challenge adhesion. Now, we know from some social media that there are many different way, many different challenge. Sometimes the challenge is just to have a dance or have a sing publicly on a social media. But when we ask about the challenge, we discovered from our students that they only consider challenge that one that can be dangerous for the health of students. For example, here you have some very famous challenge. This one, you have to scratch yourself on the face. Here you have to close your breath with a cord or to broke your nose. And everything must be done online in order to reach a lot of like or improvement from the population. When we ask students if they take part in a challenge, fortunately, the prevalence in my country is very low, only 1%, 1.5% is increased in the last years, but fortunately still very low. But that's really, really dangerous because they really means something concretely problematic. Now, I'm sorry, but I think it was very important to show you what is normal, because here we are not talking of problematic use. We are talking at the normal use of internet from young people. Now, let's me move to the social media at risk in Europe. Here I'm showing you the new ESPA data from the European survey. As you can see, Italy is one of the country where the high at risk social media use is higher, and is higher in the female than in male. But we start to have a very high at risk social media use in 2015, and is going to increase, and now is more or less around 47%. That's something that it's interesting because it's very different through different countries. We study in deep. I will show you something. What can be helpful with this kind of problematic internet use, I will show you very, very soon. Let me just show you something more about the MathSpad results, because in MathSpad we have a very interesting section regarding the prevalence of internet use. As you can see in the South MathSpad countries that are the one in the south part of the Mediterranean area, the prevalence seems to be lower than in the north area, and that can be also because of the availability, because what we found then is that 77% of MathSpad students spend time on social network in the 7 days prior the survey, while social media seems so popular in Lebanon and Tunisia, and less popular in Egypt, as you can see. And here you can find the hours on a typical school day spent in all countries. As you can see, Egypt and seems to be one of the countries that where the time spent on social media is very low. 44% of students say that they don't they spend less time online, but look at Tunisia and Morocco. The rate is very, very high and reach more or less some North European country. And here in the typical school day, here in a typical non-school day, but the picture is more or less the same. Here Tunisia is 94%, so it's higher in a non-school day. That's normal because they have much time. And when we look at the problematic use, of course, the viability seems to be strictly related also to the problematic use. As you can see, in Tunisia, we have 60% of girls that use social media that have already a problematic use, a discontrolled use of social media. It's lower the prevalence in Egypt, but it's not so lower as it's low the prevalence. So what the highlights regarding the MathSpad results is that the availability, regarding the availability, the social media use seems to be strongly correlated with the internet access for the entertainment, and nearly universal using in Lebanon 96%, and Tunisia indicated the high accessibility. Living in larger family and having peers who are active on social media increase a lot the use of the social media. Now, I'm going fast from the social media use to the gaming because I want to give you some picture also for gaming and gambling, and then I'm going to close. Regarding gaming, what we found was the average in a school day of students who do gaming is more or less 7%, and this is gaming in the last 30 days, and regarding the non-school days is 76. As you can see, in the north of Europe, the prevalence is higher than in the south of Europe, and the at-risk gaming increase, especially for female, but also the gaming increase a lot in female group. That means that probably the gaming industry is going to look at new market, and the female market is completely, it's more or less virgin regarding the gaming. When we look at Italian data, we have some information regarding which kind of gaming student used to do, and as you can see, the much famous are the multiplayer and then the action or the rule gun, and there are many differences between male and female and between the online and the offline gaming. What we found in our country is that also the gaming at risk increase after the pandemic. We passed through the 60%, the 14, then the 60 again. And there is a bridge between gaming and gambling that is connected by the loot box. Loot box are the prize boxes that may contain advantage for continuing the video game, such as armor or other items that are valuable to those obtain them. And in our country, we observe the loot box use more or less 17% of student gamers have purchased a loot box in the last 12 months. Loot boxes are the real bridge to gambling. Now,
Sabrina,
I deem that
Sabrina, I'm sorry for interruption, but maybe we can move on to questions. What do you think? So, because we have some questions and we need to ask them.
okay.
So, would you be okay for that? So, if we
Yes,
just
I would like just to show you
yeah.
a little bit more regarding
All
gambling.
right. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Just let me show you what is going on regarding gambling in Europe that is increasing. In the last year, we reached the prevalence higher than never had. And we also have a very big spread of gambling in our country, more than 60% of students, and more or less 5% of students have already problematic gambling. And regarding maths, but we also find a big rate of students with a problematic gambling use. But what I really want to show you is something about the cyberbullying, because when connection turning into isolation, there are other behavior that must be described. For example, the cyberbullying, that is something that is close to the traditional bullying, but is more long-lasting. The victim can be reached everywhere and with a wider audience, and the perpetrator of cyberbullying may be protected by anonymity. And in our country, we observe a big increase of cyberbullying, both with victims than perpetrators. I'm not going to show you more in depth the information regarding the cyberbullying, but what is important to show you is that there are a big part of students that use, as they do with the ghosting, also the cyberbullying as a way to relation with people. As you can see, there are only 8% of students that are only bullies, more than 24 that are only victims, but 23% that used to do both bullies and victims. And these kind of students are the one with a lot of associated factor and many other problems connected with their behavior that is strictly related with their online life. So I think that cyberbullying is intrinsically linked to various and environmental and social determinants, and is necessary to discuss about and around it. And the last data I want to give you is about the social withdrawal. That is the peak of the iceberg of the all the problem related to the virtual life of student. I think most of you may know the phenomenon of hikikomori was a phenomenon started in Japan the beginning of 2000th century, but right now is going to be very popular also in our countries. We study the prevalence of hikikomori student, and we found in our country more than 2% of students that already have some sign that can be diagnosed as a cyberbullying, and this kind as a hikikomori. And this kind of student used to have many other disease related with their use of web. So they live under the screen, behind the screen, and they spend time just closing their room. So let me close with my take-home message, and then I will respond to all your questions. And let me give you that we are facing some unique challenge, and we need to take in consideration that this generation have to face many different challenges that the previous. So we need absolutely to set the prevention strategy to adapt them, moving behind a moralistic approach to systematic and adaptive approach. And also we need to train the parents, because they must be absolutely, they must have all the information they need to try to understand what is going on in their own house. Here are all the data that I show you, and I want to thank you for the attention. Sorry if I was a little longer, but I think it was important to give you these last two information.
Thank you very much. Grazie mille, Sabrina.
It's okay.
Really, it was all good. So your all presentation of your findings, it was all valuable. So the first question is, so you presented some results regarding the female and male internet, like problematic internet consumption differences. So why females are having more than problematic internet consumption than males? So what could be the reason? What do you think?
I think that is different. It depends what you mean about problem. So if we talk about the social media work the role of your image external. That means that you can be in connection with your peer using your image, and it's hard for a young girl to compare, to compete with the beautiful model that we have on the screen. So you spend all the time looking yourself in this screen, and you find all your defect or all the problems you can have, and your life must be perfect because you only have to show the positive part of your life. That's what happened in the social media. But if you think there are two different patterns for the girl, there is this fragility related to the social media. For the male, for the gaming, because it's something much more related to the activity, to your role, your capacity to do things, your performance in virtual sport or in virtual knowledge. So it's two sides of the same coin. For the female, it seems to be much more related to describe yourself as better you can, and for the male, to seems to be better in all the sports or the activity. You must be the top of level.
Thank you. So another question is, nowadays we are trying to regulate the social media use in our country. So that's why we are preparing for some law to cut down on. So is there any law that Italy is working on to cut down on those social media usage in people?
Actually, we
Or what we have to do if we are lawmakers?
I think that the best way is to stay close to the young people and try to understand how they use the virtual life in order to grow up. To deny them the availability of social media, of the web, can be risky just because they are digital natives. We are not. And they for sure will find a way to reach their goal because they grow up with all the facilities related to the social media. We not. So they have their own strategy to defend themselves. But what we need to do, as I try to say, is to try to understand what we concretely can do and spend time close to them in order to understand, to complete, to understand in the better way possible the means or their action on the web. I know that in some countries we are trying to regulate to develop some regulation, but for example, for the gambling online is illegal everywhere. But that doesn't work with the young people because they gambler online. It's very high the rate of the student who do that. So that means that we need to educate them before to deny the availability of the social media of course they have to have some alternatives, because if they spend all time in home and they are alone and they don't have anything else to do outside, what happened is that they spend much more than all the time just online. Now we have this interesting paper some years ago regarding the gaming, but the same I think is for the social media, where we found that in such country where the public system give the young people the availability to some sport for free, or theater courses, or some other interesting activity external from the school, but for put together young people, they spend less time on screen. That's what we have to do, is to develop something interesting for them.
Interesting and maybe free, right?
It may be free for sure, because
Exactly. I do agree with you. So another question is, do you think is there a correlation between countries' socioeconomic circumstances or economical conditions of the country itself and the time spent on social media? What do you think about that?
as I said, what we found was that Denmark, that is a very rich country, have a lower rate of problematic use of gaming some years ago. Now the situation has changed. I'm curious to understand what is going on. And Romania, that is a very low country, have a very high rate, because there was nothing out of the school from the young people. So in that way, the social level of the family, and much more the general situation in the country, can impact with the problematic use of internet. Of course, as we saw for Egypt, where internet is not so reachable, actually the prevalence is very low, but because they don't use. But what is interesting is to see that for who is in the condition to reach internet, the prevalence of the problematic use is more or less the same. So if you look at the people who have the possibility to reach internet, also in Egypt, we have a high rate of problematic use.
Yeah, it's reasonable. So another question is, do you think is there a association between how the social media is structured? Like, for example, we have some likes, we have some notifications, and the whole structure of the social media. So how it affects the election cycle?
Yeah, that's the way that they do the social media. The social media are driven are built in order to make you happy, and they have to give you the possibility to develop endorphin, and to increase your dopamine. And you must be super happy if someone say like, or good, or if someone interact with you, someone that you are is unknown from you. So it's very emotional for a young pupils to be in the middle of such big plays. So the social media works like that. That's the way that the all the instrument work. But the same is for the gaming, for the gambling. They are built in order to make you dependent. And the same is going to happen with the artificial intelligence chatbot, because of course, if you find the answer to all your questions in real time, you don't have to wait, you don't have to face the frustration of the ignorance, but you have quickly an answer to everything. It's something that increase your dopamine, and we become more and more and more easily addicted to all this kind of social media. And next step will be with artificial intelligence, I think. But we are already in the middle of everything with that, because it's much easier to ask chat GPT to answer a very long email than spend your time looking at all the content, answer in detail to all the information. So that's something you can imagine young people, it's a very easy life. So for this reason, we need to understand how it works in order to help them to divide what is real and what is just fake from artificial intelligence or from social media.
So thank you. Another question is how teachers could respond to that to cut down on these behaviors in schools. What might be some protective techniques that you can drop it here?
I think that one of the bigger lesson from the teacher is to find a way to keep them interested in what they are doing. Now, we know that there is a big problem in activity in this generation because they are very fast in reach all the stimulus. And what happened is that for the teacher is a big problem to spend 1 hour just talking. They don't have video, or if they have, it's very old-fashioned something. So they have to find a way to keep them in relationship, because I think that in a few time probably the young people will need again to be in contact personally with other people, and the school is the perfect place where all these relationship can happen. So for them, it's for the teacher is a big challenge right now because I,
I
I really don't want to be a teacher right now.
Yeah, I do agree with you. So another question is, I'm working on pornography addiction. So like this is my research area. That's why what you came up like earlier was
Yeah.
like some people were in COVID were also more prone to some, porn addiction and stuff. So I do want to ask that, is there any association between like social media use, like for example, Instagram or TikTok? So relationship between these platforms and pornography websites. What do you think about that? So
I
what
think
could be
that
the
can be. It's
how?
not necessarily directly connected, but of course can be, because for many of the social media that are related to your image, and in many of them you find all these sexual images that are not explicitly pornography, but they are close to. I mean, not always. It's easy to find images of a young girl that play the role of adult with the makeup, or with some or dresses very aggressive. So I think that it can be something close, not necessary, not for all, but there are some neighboring between the two phenomenon.
Like if you put social media as an independent variable and
Yeah.
pornography as a dependent, what could be the mediator, for example?
But such kind of social media that seems to be sort of a way, a getting way. So I contact you through a normal social media, then I drive you in a way of pornography. That could be an option. I don't know. I'm not an expert of
Yeah.
pornography. What do you think about?
What I do think is that, so for example, in social media, for example, Instagram,
Yeah,
people are, showing their bodies at
yeah,
some extent. Not maybe like 100%, but I think there are 50 to 60% some nakedness there. Some people are
yeah.
showing. So I think while like scrolling down on social media, for example, Instagram, so the more you encounter with such context, so the dopamine level increases and you want to explore more and more. And
Yeah.
the only way to have this dopamine increase that much is the pornography,
Hat. Yeah.
isn't
That's
it?
interesting. Yeah, it's reasonable. That's interesting. That's an interesting. It would be interesting to look at to study some people who move from Instagram to OnlyFans or to other pseudo pornography website, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. So, and also I'd like to share with the participants that we have a survey, so you can see the survey in the chat button or somewhere in the screen. So please fill them out. So your feedbacks are really important for us. Please do it because we would like to also like provide the best services that we can give to you. That's why these are really important for us. So another question is in some countries there are some regulations for the individuals who are below 16 years of age. So what do you think about that? In Turkey also we have this kind of regulations to be on the edge coming. So do you think this kind of regulations could prevent people from getting addicted to it, social media, or I don't know?
As I said, I think that in this generation, we need really to understand how they think, because they grow up with all the online stimulus. We didn't. So they used to have everything in real time. They used to be connected all the time. And also there are some discrepancy because from one side you say you don't have to stay online all the time, but if you are out of the house and your parents can't reach you because your phone is closed, you are not connected, they become upset. So we need to develop a common language in order to give them the availability to use all the traits that are related to the use of web, but in the meantime, to understand all the risk related, because for example, when I was talking about the ghosting, now, for me, it's a big violence to be ghosted from someone. So for an adolescent to be ghosted, it's something very, very common. And if you talk with them, they don't think it's so violent as I think, because they feel this behavior not so problematic. It's something that can happen with someone. Of course, a fragile student can become anxious and can have problem, but the majority just say, I was ghosted, that's it. We need to understand their priority and their languages. We don't need to close them the possibility to go through this online world, online life, but we need to be in the middle and to try to understand how we can do that together, adult world and adolescent. That's in my opinion, the solution.
Thank you, Sabrina. So now we are closing. Is there anything that you want to add?
I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to share all these data, these results, and please go on our website, look at the MedSpad and the ASPAD results, because I think you will find it interesting. And I hope
Dr. Mani.
to see you soon. Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Malinaro. Thank you very much for your
Thank
valuable
you.
contribution. This has truly been a highly educational session, both academically and practically. Dear participants, this evening we discussed important insights into gambling and digital addictions in general, and I believe we all live with new perspective on the topic. So I would like to thank each and every one of you for your participation, engagement, and thoughtful questions. Lastly, please don't forget to fill out the feedback survey. Your input is important for shaping our future events. Please refrain from all addictions. Have a nice night. Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao.